end of the year live streams. I'm Levi Rickert.
Chance Rush in the building. Levi, how you doing, man?
You have Chance Rush in the house. And Chance, where are you, man? You travel all over this country, all over India country. Where are you tonight?
And I don't even know where I'm at. I'm actually in the downtown Minneapolis, of all places. I'm in Minneapolis. Let me tell you something, Levi. One of the reasons, you know that I love Native News Online whenever my favorite hockey team is like across the street right now.
Oh, my word.
We're getting ready to play the Minnesota Wild. My Dallas Stars in the house, in town. So I had the opportunity to go over to the game or to stay here and be part of our end of the year campaign live stream, man. Hey, listen, Levi, real quick, man, I want to thank you very much, for letting me join you to be a part of this. And I hope that we can raise some funds tonight. And, and then I know that we're supposed to go back and forth and talk about what we're doing. But anyway, I'm in Minneapolis, but I'm going to ask you, what was the vision behind Native News Online? And why is it important for Indian country to not only hear about Native News Online, but also embrace it and take on some responsibilities?
Well, I think I'm glad you asked, and really, truly, thank you for the sacrifice you're making. And
whatever.
You are in demand, and you are actually donating your time tonight. So I really do appreciate it. But Native News Online will turn 14 on February 14th, 2026. So just right around the corner. And I never visualized it, Chance, to be as big as it is. I mean, we get millions of people come to our website every year, but going back, very simple. And the short version of our mission statement is to improve the lives of American Indians and Alaska Natives. I always say, who can argue with that? And I guess even when it comes out, I always say, well, you know what? Historically, a lot of people argue with that. We have overcome genocide and everything else. But truly, we need a voice in Indian country. And I know there are other ICT, Indians.com, and we're actually gonna have AC on in a little bit. But so we are out here, and our message has to be very powerful and very clear, especially these days in terms of the pushback with DEI. We are DEI. We are part of diversity. We as Native people, we have that special political status, our tribal sovereignty, and earlier this year we changed. At the beginning of the year, we call our mantra. You see the top of our website says, warrior journalism defending tribal sovereignty. So it really is about defending our tribal sovereignty and making sure our voices are heard. And and the good thing about it is, Chance, it's hard work, but I have a lot of fun doing what I do because I get to meet a lot of great people like you. And I do want to mention, and I appreciate you being our co-host, and you actually are filling in some big shoes tonight, because before he passed away, Ernie Stevens had committed to be one of our hosts tonight. Co-hosts. And so I just want to give a shout out to Ernie, and if his family's watching, we lost a giant in Indian country on September 26th. And I know you and I basically kind of cried together. So tell me what you're thinking about Ernie.
Well, first of all, I miss Ernie so much. We go back 20 years. A lot of people don't know that we shared a lot of stages together, a lot of places together, whether it's through our basketball, Native American Basketball Invitational, or Indian Gaming, whatever it may be. But you're right. He was literally a giant, and so grateful and thankful. And I know that he would tune into this because he wanted to raise money, man. Like one time we had a conversation. Matter of fact, the news broke. We were going for National Indian Gaming Association, dropping the N, just going to Indian Gaming Association. You were the first one to break that story. And, when you did the interview with him, I believe the interview was in Anaheim, he told me, he said, you know what, I'm glad that we have Native News Online because, and I know that he's watching from above, he said, because they tell the truth. And so, that's the purpose of tonight. This isn't just donating my time. This isn't, trying to give a contribution. No, listen, we have to be heard. All these other stations, they're not going to tell the truth about what's going on in Indian country. Native News Online, I'm telling you, is the source for the honest to goodness truth of anything that has to do with Indian country, the betterment of it. And one thing I really do like about Native News Online, ladies and gentlemen, is that it's not about, the things that are going wrong. We don't just share stories about, you know, legal issues or, bad legal issues or whatever. We tell some amazing stories. So we need your help this evening. This is the importance of this. So yeah, you can look at it as, hey, we're coming together to donate. No, like we need this. We need some funds. And you guys can help us out there. We have a great lineup tonight. Levi, who do we have on the lineup tonight? That's
so we have Angeline Boulley coming on shortly. We have a fashion designer from Sky Eagle, Dante, coming on. We have Billy Mills making a special appearance, and Sean Sherman, Mo Brings Plenty, and some tribal leaders. We're going to have fun, and I will tell this to the viewers: the upper corner, left-hand corner, at least where I'm looking at, is the QR code, and feel free to put your phones. You guys know how to do that. We were laughing just before we came on that I'm an older guy, and my younger staff have to teach me things sometimes, Chance. And I just figured out how to use QR codes about 2 years ago. Don't laugh at me, but it's the truth. And
I still don't know how to use them.
So to our viewers, or you can go right to our webpage, and there's a donate. Almost in every store you have, it says donate here, and it's really going to our year-end campaign. We have some special announcements tonight in terms of some donations that have already come in, and maybe even. But and to the viewers, if you want to put in the chat, you want a shout out, we will track that. Put it in the chat, and if anyone giving above $100, you want a shout out, or sometimes people don't want their name out there. But if you really want to shout out, feel free. And if you have a special gift you want to donate to Native News Online, whether you're a tribal council member, tribal chairperson, chief, governor, whatever you call yourself, feel free. And then we will we'll try to get you on here, and you just put your email in the chat, and Kristen, our producer, will get it to you. But Chance, I to kind of set the stage before we start bringing on guests. We did an interview last week. Our senior staff reporter, Sean Griswold, interviewed AC from Indians.com and me, and we want to show that right now because we want to kind of set the context in terms of the importance of Native media in as it relates to how we fit into the big scheme of things with mainstream media. So
let's go.
AC Agoyo is from Indians.com. To begin, I just want to start with you, AC, and from your news coverage there, what did you see define U.S. tribal sovereignty in 2025?
I think as everybody knows, in any country, tribal sovereignty is facing a lot of challenges. And that's unusual considering the fact that over the past 25 years, tribal leaders have done a lot of work to educate members of Congress, the administration, regardless of who is in the White House, about the trust and treaty responsibilities of the U.S. government. Treaties and the trust responsibility of government, they're not partisan, they're nonpartisan. But this year, we've seen that it's harder to get that message through. Tribal leaders are still sending the same consistent message. Tribal organizations are sending the same consistent message, but the message isn't really being carried out by our advocates and our allies in other places. Normally, we'd see certain members of Congress stand up and say, "Oh, this is what we're doing. This is right," and it's harder to find those people who are doing that. You'll see maybe one or two people do it, but it's not clear and consistent across the board as it has been in the past. And along with that, every time a new administration comes in for the executive branch, there's always changes. There's always new people to meet. There's always new people to educate. But this year, what we've seen is that there isn't anybody around. We still don't have a director of the Indian Health Service. We're already in December, and the White House has not announced a nominee to lead the Indian Health Service, which is a big issue for our people. And it took 10 months for the Assistant Secretary for Indian Affairs to be confirmed. And he was confirmed right before the start of the National Congress of American Indians Conference, which of course was probably the largest tribal gathering of the year, but he was nowhere to be found. He was not there. He even sent a video message. No one from his department was there. So there's been a lot of challenges in getting the people who would normally be sharing the same message that tribes share here in Washington, D.C. We do have some officials who are Native, who are tribal members, who are tribal leaders, tribal citizens who have joined the administration. But what we found is that they aren't in positions where they're actually making the decisions. They're there to be advisors. They're there to carry out a job, but they're not actually at the table making those decisions. So it is a huge challenge, considering the shutdown that just happened, which was the longest shutdown in U.S. history. That really was a big headache for a lot of people in the country. So I think the challenges that we're facing this year, they're not new, but I think, to me, having been in Washington, D.C. for over 20 years, seeing that there weren't the advocates standing up in Congress, and there weren't those people in the administration to stand up for us, that really had a big impact on how tribal sovereignty is really being respected and honored at the national level.
Yeah, and Levi, I have to ask you, from the coverage you worked on this year and you published from Native News Online, what stood out to you that defined U.S. tribal sovereignty in 2025?
Well, and first of all, I do want to thank AC for coming on with us on this discussion about Native media. He's based in Washington, and quite often I will find myself calling him because he's there and I'm not. I am based in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and I try to get to DC as much as I can, but I do appreciate your input, AC, and what you just said. But Sean, for me, it kind of is tied to the anti-DEI movement that's out there. This administration was real quick with executive orders upon assuming office within a matter of days of basically telling the world we're no longer going to respect diversity, equity, and inclusion. And what happened was you saw tribes all of a sudden had to really coalesce, come together and say, we're going to defend tribal sovereignty. That's what defines us as Native people. It's not just necessarily a race or the color of our skin, who we are, but our tribal sovereignty is really what defines us. And that's what separates us. And I do think that in our reporting at Native News Online, we were able to really, I really embrace that concept. The national organizations such as NCAI, Indian Gaming, National Indian Health Board, on, and AC probably know more about all their names than I do, but I mean, I'm familiar with them, but there's a coalition that was formed, right, AC, around that whole notion of defining and defending is probably the better word of tribal sovereignty. So Sean, I think in that respect, we have a uphill battle, and I agree with AC. I think it's very unfortunate this administration has not named the new director for Indian Health Service. Took Billy Kirkland to get confirmed and even sworn. Even once he was confirmed by the Senate, it took during the shutdown 4 or 5 weeks to get sworn in. And I kept calling DC, calling AC, calling around, and called Larry over at NCAI. Has Larry Kirkland been sworn in? And nobody was giving me a straight answer. I mean, other than AC saying, I don't think so, and Larry saying, I don't think so. So it's been a kind of a hard year that way for us, Sean, to really talk about it and cover this Trump 2.0, as it's called. And I'm not here to talk politics, but I will say this, that we as Native media will defend tribal sovereignty all the time, and that's what we're about.
Yeah, thank you. And that stood out for me here too. I'm going to get to my next question. I think what stood out for me at first was exactly the executive orders from the Trump administration, reversing a lot of gains that tribes saw from the Biden era, and then a reshuffling of a full sort of disruption of the federal government through DOGE, through the Department of Homeland Security. Those two stood out almost immediately. And where we're sitting now, there's interesting to me from what DOGE caused in the disruption of loss of federal grants, entire departments and services that were provided for Indian country, new and developing and emerging programs particularly. There has been a bit of a lay we're now understanding some of it is now operating in other spaces. Money was moved to other places. And why I brought up the DHS immediately was Alligator Alcatraz and the context of what the Miccosukee Nation did in standing up as one of the first tribal nations against the Department of Homeland Security and creating different operations that is creating some accountability in the judicial system for a federal agency that is running in a lot of ways outside of it. That stood out to me, and that was very early in the year. That was before we got to the federal government disruption of the shutdown, which was just a larger layer that led tribes into a bunch of spaces that Some had to lead with self-determination. I think there was a pretty clear view as to tribes who have, more capital, larger populations. And you saw, like the Cherokee Nation was one that sort of was understood as taking over parts of services that were already happening that became fast-tracked either through Doge or the shutdown or other actions that either administratively or through executive actions by this administration. That's what really stood out to me. And so this is my question, and I see that from both Indians.com and Native News Online. What stood out, now my question here for you in the second piece is that, and Levi, you were already here, so I'm going to ask you this and continue your thought. Why is Native journalism important in today's climate?
I will say Native American journalism is important, and it's really critical for tribal leaders around the United States to really recognize the importance of Native journalism. And that is Native American journalists go deeper. The mainstream media will give the cursory. Yes, they may hit millions of many more, multiple times more than what Native News Online reaches. However, in our little segment, we go deeper, and I will use the Indian boarding schools as an example. We have published over 270 stories dealing with Indian boarding schools, whereas some of the medias have done a decent job. Some have done cursory stories here and there, but I also like to equate it to the old shiny object. Once the shiny object's done, they move on to the next story. We stay with those stories and we dig deeper, and that to me is critical so that there's a deep understanding of what our issues are, what our concerns are as Native people. And we will continue to do that here at Native News Online. And that's why the support that we're asking for tonight is just really critical, that we can keep doing what we're doing in terms of digging deeper, telling the Native story. The narrative is different from what most people, and I've actually been in situations where I've been in Washington, where Washington Post reporters have said to me, I'm sitting here at NCAI, I'm using as an example. One individual told me, he said, it's not quite what we thought it was. It's different issues, isn't it? And I thought, I was really happy that he understood that, because Native journalists, we are Native and we understand. I like to tell people I've been Native my whole life, so I don't have to take a Indians 101. Yes, I do have to learn about certain tribes. We're not all alike. We are not a monolith. However, as a Native person, I'm real sensitive to the issues that confront all of us.
AC, I have to ask you the same question. Why is Native journalism important in today's climate? Can you share your thoughts?
Yeah, so Native journalism, as Levi mentioned, it's different. And I think it's different because we're coming from in our backgrounds. As Native people, we are intrinsic storytellers. We have our tribes that have taught us and shared our stories for tens of thousands of years. We have our history, we have our songs, we have our prayers, we have our information that is shared, and we tell those stories. So coming from that perspective, that's what I practice. Sit there and listen, and I share the people's stories. And I think that is a different mindset from maybe some other mainstream or non-Native journalists, because they're covering issues that don't affect their communities. They're covering issues that may not directly impact them, and there isn't anything wrong with that. There isn't anything that you shouldn't be worried about that. But when you are a Native person reporting about Native issues, you do bring a different background to it. Having grown up in my tribal community, having parents who are both active in our tribal politics and our tribal ways of life, that does impact your understanding. And same thing as, having been born in the Indian Health Service hospital, going to the Indian Health Service as a child and seeing all of that, that does affect how you view coverage of what you're doing now and how you're focusing on the IHS and other agencies like that. Being a young child and being the recipient of Johnson O'Malley funds, that does impact how you view the Department of Education. That does impact how you view Indian education. And then as Levi mentioned, we've had the boarding school era. Almost every one of us, either our parents or grandparents, went through them. So that does impact on how we do the coverage. And we need this coverage because, as Levi mentioned, we're not all the same. There's over 500 tribes. There's over 200 in Alaska alone. So we need individual voices to come and share their perspectives and give greater diversity to the Indian country coverage. When I first came to Washington, D.C., there were several Native news reporters. Now I go and it's me and maybe Levi and maybe one other person, and that's not enough. So, we need more sources, we need more publications, we need more people, and we need people investing in alternative forms of news gathering and news dissemination. We have young people on Twitter, we have young people on Instagram, we have young people on TikTok. So we need more of that to share the news and to carry on our traditions of storytelling.
And we're back.
Man, that's cool.
I actually had a fun time last week when we actually recorded it last Friday, and people can see the full version of that tomorrow on Native Bedashkwe. But I kind of want to do that more often, Chance. Like
absolutely,
not just with AC, but other Native journalists, just to kind of so that people see. A lot of times that work a whole lot this week is value.
Mm-hmm.
It's like what our values are. We've got an issue with a tribe that we can talk about later, I guess. But it's really what is the values of the tribe and what are our values as Native journalists? Why we do what we do to me is so critical. In that most Native journalists I know, Chance, are hardworking people. Journalism is long hours, and I'm not going to say little pay. Some people probably get paid more than others, but I will say that it is real critical. And why is it critical? And this is something I'm more proud of. One of the things I'm proud of as founder of Native News Online is the credibility that we have within Washington, D.C. with decision makers. We get exclusives from members of Congress, senatorial offices. Mark Cruz, who is the senior assistant to Robert Kennedy Jr. at HHS now, he got a hold of me. I was actually flying back to Grand Rapids from someplace, and I was at O'Hare, and he said, "Hey, Levi, I have an exclusive for you. Do you want to talk about it?" And I said, "Well, I'm at O'Hare." I said, "I'll be in Grand Rapids by 2:00. Can we talk?" Then he called me and we got it set up. But to me, it's that credibility that is so important. That it's taken time. It has taken time. When I first started Native News, I'd knock on doors at NCAI. I couldn't get past the front desk. They didn't know me, but now they know me, and I consider Larry Wright a friend, right? And I respect what NCAI does, and I respect what other national Native American organizations do in Washington, D.C., working on behalf of the people. And sometimes people be real cynical about things, but it is really important work that our people do for us. And the good news is, Chance, Native News Online, me included, me as the editor, I get to amplify the news. And the old line is we get the front row seat to history, right? Especially in Indian country. And we get to the other, said about journalists, we write the first draft of history. Well, it's really fun in that regard, but it is hard work, but it takes money. And that's why we're asking, go to that QR code and ask for money. Yeah.
And
go ahead.
I'm going to say this real quick, teaching everybody out there who's listening in. I have the privilege to kind of serve as Levi builds it up as a co-host, but I feel like I'm a contributor. I love coming in and, going 1-2 punch with you, just to kind of cover and encourage others. Ladies and gentlemen, if you just saw the backbone of what it takes for Native News Online to put everything together for a 15-minute interview, everything that they do, what they donate, what they try to push out there. So I come in, I push a button, I get on with them, I rock it for 15 minutes, and I'm on my way. We don't see what's behind the scenes, and it's a lot of money behind the scenes. You can help us, $100, $500, whatever it may be. You can help us. Anybody out there that knows somebody, just come on, because like I said, nobody's going to tell this truth of Turtle Island, of tribal communities, of the Indigenous outlook better than Native News Online. We're not sitting here trying to promote that we're the best, Native news coverage. We're not promoting that. because we hope there's many more of people doing that. We hope that somebody who's just watching on YouTube or Facebook, that, you know, you want to push your content through, you know, your lens, whatever that may be. We want to support that. We want to back that, because we have to be the ones that tell the truth. AC talked about it. AC talked about basically Indian country is on the back burner. You mean to tell me we don't have a director? Like, we are not a priority. We have to make us a priority. Everybody can play your part in doing that. I'm gonna turn it back over to you, but I'm gonna say this too real quick, right? First of all, Sean looks like a journalist, on the site reporter, man. He just had that cool look with that necklace. And Levi, come on, man, you got to get back in those blazers, man. You look 10 years older in that little interview with A. The only one that looked like there was the only age was AC. You know, so I don't know, man. I don't know, man. You were sitting there looking like a chairman. For some reason, when you put on a blazer and you put on your little necklace there, you just, you know, your smile comes out, your energy comes out. Man, in that little video, I don't know if someone didn't tell you.
Look,
like,
man, I was trying to put on that serious look, okay?
I thought that was your uncle. I thought that was your dad and your uncle.
You know I love you, brother.
Man, Sean was just coming live and direct as a journalist. I thought that was cool.
Hey, we have a special guest waiting. I don't want to keep her waiting any longer. We have a very special guest, New York Times best-selling author,
my gosh,
Angeline Boulley. Angeline, welcome to our live stream. We're trying to raise money tonight. Thank you so much for coming on. And hey, how are you doing that book tour? You're traveling all over the place too.
Yeah, my year's been really busy, and I want to contribute $1,000 to get this fundraiser rolling.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, no, I've had just such a great year, and my paperback edition of of Warrior Girl Unearthed was released in May, and then of course Sisters in the Wind came out September 2nd, and I was able to be on Good Morning America. It was really incredible. And then I also had a short story included in Legendary Fry Bread Drive-In.
Yay!
I haven't seen that.
Yeah, this is edited by Cynthia Leidick-Smith, and it's got stories from, Jen Ferguson, Darcy Little Badger, David Robertson, Andrea Rogers, Brian Young, Byron Graves. Like we're talking, this is the who's who of children's and young adult literature. And it was just an honor. We each contributed a story, and we had to have it centered around this mysterious drive-in that our grannies all operate, and one appears in every community. And wow. I really feel like that was a fun way to tell stories and pay no. This is my little sidekick here, my little partner.
Okay.
Well, and
for those who do not know, she is a fellow Michigander. I live in Grand Rapids. I'm not going to tell you her location, but she is a tribal citizen of the Sault Ste. Marie tribe.
The Sioux, baby, the Sioux.
She's a Sioux. And you know what?
Every time Chance hears Sault Ste. Marie, he gets a certain pain in his backside.
My heart. What are you talking about? My heart.
Oh, we did our tribal youth council did a bike ride from Sault Ste. Marie to St. Ignace, and Chance, he was our MC for the event, and he graciously volunteered to ride right along with all the kids. And I don't know, Chance, tell him about that bike that we hooked you up with.
Yeah, it was a grandma bike, and I biked 47 miles. Oh, 47 miles. And you know, Angeline, I think this is just crazy. First of all, you look fabulous. You know, she used to dress like an Indian education coordinator. Yes. Now look at her.
Well, she was at the U.S. Department of Ed, yes.
Yeah, now she writes a couple books, and she looks like Hollywood.
She looks like Hollywood.
Yeah. Well, I'm very proud of you. I got a question for you, but I'm very proud of you. I remember we were sitting out at the Brookhaven. I can't remember. We were out in D.C., and you said, Chance, I'm going to write a book, and my life is going to change. You remember that night?
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't that special? I mean, just talk for a second about manifesting.
Oh gosh, I'm the poster child for that. Yeah, I had a great idea for a story when I was a senior in high school. And then when I was 44, I was like, I'm going to write this thing. I'm going to give it a go. And it took 10 years of writing and revising. And once I had really worked on my craft and felt like the story was as good as I could get it, I got an agent, a literary agent, within 2 weeks, and Firekeeper's Daughter sold at auction for over $1 million.
Yeah.
And my life did indeed change.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've since had 2 more books come out, plus participating in these anthology projects. And the beret is it's not just fashion, Chance. It is. I submitted my first draft on my 4th book last night at 3 a.m. So this is, my creativity hangover, I'll say.
Right. Well, I know that you're a fan of Native News Online. How important is this night? How important is, us fundraising? And thank you for contributing $1,000. We do appreciate that. And I know you're a fan of us. So you're a fan of Native News Online. Talk about the importance of why tribal communities should get involved with our outreach here.
Even a small donation, $5 if you can spare it, $10, it makes a huge difference, because there are a lot of us, and we're more powerful when we come together. And Native News Online, they've been very good to me and to other Indigenous authors that are trying to change the canon of, books that are being taught in classrooms, what students are reading. We're really changing the narrative and modernizing, non-Native people's image of what Native people are. And, Native News Online has always been good to me.
Chance, thank you for that. But I want to say something that really impressed me. Angeline came to Grand Rapids, came to Grand Valley State University, and I'm on the Native American Advisory Council there, and she readily agreed to come. But as she was speaking that night, she talked about, that nice sum she made from the book. But you know what's really great? She's making sure her children, her nieces and nephews are benefiting. They can get the education. And so often our kids have to go away to college, and they're working 1, 2, 3 jobs just to make it. But Angeline, because of and that's the Indian way. That's the Indian way, spreading that around. And I always jokingly say, you give a Native person a quarter, and they're going to try to figure out 6 ways to split it up and split it among family, relatives, friends, whatever.
Yeah.
But Angeline, I really, kudos to you for that. That really, I remember feeling really special that night you said that, and as I'm relaying this story, I'm feeling goosebumps about that, because education is so important for our kids. It's a ticket out of poverty for so many people. And you coming out of the Department of Education, all about the need for education, and dangerous Indian is an educated one. Isn't the old line? And I think I've seen that on some memes somewhere. Yep.
Yeah, and my daughter graduated debt-free from Michigan Tech University, and she's a software engineer at Ford. My son Chris, my stray kitty, he gave me every gray hair that I have. He's 31 now, and he graduated last year with a degree in finance from Northern Michigan, and he is now a mortgage loan officer. And my mama heart is just overflowing how education can make such a huge, huge difference in a person's life.
Well, you know what, Angeline, and I want to tell you this. I'm going to bring on a high school dropout right now. And you know who he is. If he can come on right now, I know he's been backstage.
Oh my
Angeline's cousin, Aaron Payton.
Bonjour, cousin.
Listen,
Bonjour. I
Ladies and
gotta
gentlemen.
say right off the bat how proud we are, Sioux Tribe, of Angeline. You know, she was at the top of her game when she was our education director. Then she became our associate executive director. Then she became the director of Indian education for the country, the U.S. Department of Education. And when she told me she was leaving education to write her book, I'm like, oh, why are you going to do that? She said, you got to have some faith in me. Because she was already at the top of her game. But the one thing that I really love about my cousin is in her work, not only is she creative and changing the narrative for Indian writers, every one of her books has a fundamental message. And if you look for it, you see it. And it spreads our culture, it spreads our language. Got to give kudos to the firekeeper, and the firekeeper's daughter is my Uncle Henry. But every one of her books is meaningful and it has an impact. And I am appreciative of that, Angeline.
Oh, well, I wanted to point out, you know, Warrior Girl Unearthed, my second book, and it dealt with NAGPRA and this feisty 16-year-old teen who learns about Native American Graves Protection and Repatriation Act. And she's like, screw the protocols. I'm going to repatriate, you know, how I see fit and get our ancestors back home. And of course, none of her heists go the way that it does. I was really fortunate that as the book was coming out, National Park Service and the NAGPRA office, they were going through rulemaking to change the policies and procedures for tribes repatriating. And as we know, so many institutions, universities, they were dragging their heels. And I hear from Melanie O'Brien, who works for National Park Service. I talked with her this summer. I dedicated Warrior Girl to the 108 ancestors that were still waiting to be returned home. And Melanie gave me the update that as of June of this year, there are now 82,000 waiting to be returned. We have had close to 30,000 ancestors returned home since Warrior Girl came out, but more importantly, since the regulations were changed to give tribes to recognize that tribes have a say in, you know, if you did not get our ancestors with a consent, then they need to come home. And that's the power of story. I could have given a lecture 100 times across the country about NAGPRA, but the power of a good story to, you know, open people's eyes to what's going on. I think it's my greatest calling, really. And then with Sisters in the Wind, I know that Howland v. Brackeen, you know, just because the Supreme Court ruled in our favor on the legitimacy of ICWA in 2023, we know that two justices that were opposed gave dissenting opinions that left breadcrumbs of, hey, you know, this wasn't the right legal approach.
Right.
However, and so we know the fight isn't over. It's not
Never over. Never
it's
over.
not the most powerful. The race is won by those who hang in there and get the job done and stay vigilant.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
That is so powerful. And I, you know, one of the reasons we started Native News Online and why I love seeing the emergence of Angeline Boulley as a best-selling author, that influence you have. We haven't always been happy with how we've been depicted by other writers. And Aaron and I talked about it in the past, Chance and I, it's time for us to tell our stories. So
Yeah.
that's so important. Boy, being a New York Times bestseller, and she gets all these awards, and I try to keep up with it. It's hard to keep up with you, Angeline. We're so proud of you.
She got the keys to the city, to Sault Ste. Marie.
All right.
July
Oh, man.
1st is officially
crazy.
Angeline Boulley Day in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan.
And
Man,
she's
they
the
get-
first to get the keys to the city.
Hey, They gave
And
a
I'm
res
changing the
girl.
locks, man.
Hey, Sue St. Marie's in trouble. They gave a res girl some keys. Okay, so real quick, I want to introduce the rest of our guests here. But before I do that, hit that QR code. You know, like Angeline talked about, you know, hey, whatever you got on you, let's go, man. Like, this is what it's about right here. Because, you know, like what Angeline was saying, the fight is never going to be over. The fight is never, ever going to be over. Aaron, you talked about that out in San Diego at the Unity Conference. And Dante, you're pushing that every single day. The fight is never going to be over. So hit that QR code, whatever you can help us with tonight, please do so and do that. Hey, listen, Angeline, we are so proud of you. And also, you know, they just propped up here. We got Aaron wave real quick, and then Dante wave real quick. Yeah, Dante's in a black cowboy hat. Man, he must be Osage. He got a black cowboy hat.
Hey. So let's introduce him properly. Let's introduce him properly.
That's cool.
Yeah, but really, Aaron and Angeline, we're so proud of you. Sault Ste. Marie is proud of you. You are some all-stars out of Sault Ste. Marie, the Sioux tribe. Continue your great work. Aaron, Payment here is with us. I know his book is coming out soon. And then we also have Dante Biss-Grayson with us tonight. So, Levi, go ahead and introduce the rest of our crew. Me and Dante grew up together, Aaron. Isn't that crazy?
Well, I was going to say, and Dante is he is, as Angeline is a leader in the among Native authors right now. Dante is just doing spectacular work among Native fashion designers, and
yes,
and I have to tell you, we've been talking about stories, and you know. My staff and I were talking, you know, there could be a whole segment just on Native fashion designers. And Dante, if you can just tell us about what the work you're doing and why you're doing it, and the influence you're having right now.
Sure. You know, Indigenous fashion is in a renaissance right now. Getting into these spaces, not only in Turtle Island, but internationally, you know, making headway that way. It's also, you know, as we mentioned earlier, telling a story. You know, we're telling a story through our design, our history, and our culture. So 2025, I feel like we had to pivot a lot with all, you know, the politics that are going on. And, you know, it was the year of resiliency. But 2026, I formed the International Indigenous Fashion Council, which is a governance structure that we have members in New Zealand, Peru, UK, all over Turtle Island, to really now form and get a singular voice that is going to be very powerful. So I'm looking forward to, you know, the authentic voices of Indigenous fashion for 26.
Well, thank you, Dante. Appreciate that. I know this doesn't mean anything, but Dante, I got into acting because of your dad. Your dad was an actor, and I just wanted to be in it. And I try to be an actor, and I try to separate myself from everybody, guys. And guess what? When I was trying to separate myself as that kid from Pawhuska, Oklahoma, who did a movie, guess what? Dante was in that movie too. So I couldn't. I didn't get a step ahead of him. But Dante, thank you for all your hard work, and man, we're so proud of you, man. We're so proud of you. I got a question for Aaron, but you know, Dante, talk about why it's important for people to contribute or to take on some responsibility for Native News Online.
For representation, understanding that, you know, Native News Online journalism tells the story of what's going on now. And that's super important. And earlier we were talking about all the politics of DC and all of that. These are things that are impacting fragile communities, lack of resources. And for, you know, writers, designers, fashion designers to break out into this other world, we have an opportunity to educate, you know, non-Indigenous communities. And if we have Native News Online covering this, it's like this fusion, it's this whole unity. So of amplifying this voice, amplifying this message in a proper way too, because a lot of like Hollywood, we were in the movie with Scorsese and all that. They did it proper. There's so many out there that are, you know, appropriating and just running with our designs, running with our culture, that we need to amplify that voice. So together, you know, we have more strength.
Yeah, man. Well, we appreciate that, Dante, and keep pushing your hard work, man. It truly is an honor to know who you are, man. You know, really is.
Hey, before this group has to leave, I do want to say I introduced Aaron as a high school dropout, but that's not the rest of the story. Aaron, tell us the rest of the story.
Come on.
I will. But before Dante leaves, Dante, you need to design a dress for Peggy Flanagan when she becomes our first U.S. senator, native senator, and Angeline could probably use the design.
Oh yeah,
too.
yeah. Angeline likes to sport nice native dresses around.
I'll make it happen.
Okay, so I did go back to school, and I lied my age to take my GED. I was only 16. I said I was 18, but I did go. I was a public school failure, but I went back and I got a bachelor's degree. I got 3 master's degrees and a doctorate degree over time. That took a long time to do it. And I got my degree at Central Michigan University. And I need to tell you that this weekend, I'm going to watch my cousin get an honorary doctorate degree at Central Michigan University. And she's also the commencement speaker. So I'm so excited. We're just, every time we turn around, there's another book coming out. And I can't match my rich cousin's contribution, but I will challenge tribal leaders to make at least a $500 contribution, individual contribution. And then if you can get your tribe to make a contribution, the reason is Native News Online did all kinds of coverage leading up to Brockeen, and that allowed us to get the information out on how to get your attorney generals for your state to file as an amici. That was very helpful. Also, the boarding school tour, Levi covered. He attended almost all of the sessions, which was heart-wrenching. I went to one of them, but the information and the reporting on that brought that information to tribal leaders across the country. That was very valuable. The Native Language 10-year plan, the Get Out to Vote, the Native Get Out to Vote. We can always rely on Native News Online to cover Get Out to Vote. So however you vote, whichever way you vote, we got to vote, because if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. More recently, the 35% cuts to Indian country. The big, beautiful bill budget had significant threats to the ACA and the subsidies. That threat is still there. Third-party revenues, but through the communication and Native News Online allowed me to do a series on the federal appropriations process to explain it. So tribal leaders that are brand new can go out and fight and advocate for their future generations and honor their ancestors, because we prepaid for every penny. I got that from Kathy Abramson, another Sioux Tribe member who's now in the spirit world. But we prepaid. It's not welfare. It's not reparations. Every penny that we get, we prepaid with the blood, sweat, and tears and our land, the 2 billion acres of land. So tribal leaders that are listening to this valuable information that comes to you helps to arm you and equip you to be the warrior and to advocate for your people. So please try to match my $500 contribution. If you can't, do $100 and get your tribe to do at least $1,000, maybe $5,000. And if you're like Shakopee or San Manuel, you want to go higher, of course you can go higher. Seminole. Yes.
Yeah, and I want to give a shout out. I want to give a shout out to Hannahville, Potawatomi. They sent us a check for the year-end campaign for $5,000. So Chairman Ken up there did I was really proud. It made me feel it was, how they say it in church, it thrilled my heart. How's that? And so, but it was really a special. That means a lot to me. And we have other contributions coming in tonight. And thank you, Chief McGwitch Aaron, for that $500. Angeline, thank you very much. We're not going to hold you longer. And Dante, thank you, sir, for all you do for Indian country. And Aaron, thank you for always being a good friend and friend of Native News Online. And let the viewers in on a secret. Chance. I can call Aaron and get the perspective because he has such extensive background working in Washington, D.C. I said, Aaron, tell me the backstory on this. Tell me really what's going on. And in journalism, you find out that the press releases, whether it's from a government or a business, they're always going to give their best side to it. But it's depending on people like Aaron to really help keep us straight. So
right.
Thank you for those gifts. That was fun.
Wow.
And we have something coming up from Sean Sherman. Go ahead.
Okay,
Go ahead.
But not only you, Levi, but ladies and gentlemen, that's what we're talking about, man. We had 3 very influential people online with us tonight. You know, Dante Grayson, phenomenal fashion designer, Osage Nation. You got, Aaron Payment. You got Angeline, like our author, I mean, Aaron Payment, I mean, just a phenomenal story of being a GED and, going off and just being this phenomenal speaker, right? Very knowledgeable. I mean, all of our people are important. But, these are frontline people who just want to serve and who just want to duke it out every single day through design and through writing and through policy on the front line. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is what keeps Indian country on the front line, is our commitment to Native News Online. Okay, we can give you great stories. We can give you how we all know each other. Indian country is small, but listen, Indian country is small enough for you to play your part in contributing. Give me that QR code one more time. And if you, like Angeline say, 5, 10, 15, 20, $100, let's go, man. I mean, we have some people here tonight that believe in Native News Online, that are doing some phenomenal things in this world as Native people. So let's go. Levi, what are we going to tell me? Come on, boss.
We have Sean Sherman coming up right now.
Oh, my goodness.
Indigenous chef.
Hey. Wahpepah. My name is Sean Sherman. I'm from Pine Ridge, South Dakota. I am the owner of the Sioux Chef and founder of Awamini and natives.org. And I'm just here to ask you guys for some amazing support for Native News Online. We need more Indigenous news outlets, and we need more Indigenous news and more Indigenous voices. So your support really matters. So please consider sending some dollars towards Native News Online, and just know that those dollars will be used wisely.
Chef Joshua Aragon from Laguna Pueblo feeds visitors from across the world at the award-winning Indian Pueblo Kitchen in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Located inside the Indian Pueblo Cultural Center and operated by the 19 Pueblos just a mile east of the Rio Grande. Aragon is happy his kitchen is known for its quality ingredients, standing in front of the green chili stew that was recently named the best in a city that prides itself as the chili capital of the world.
Wow, the smile on my face explains it all. I've worked hard in the kitchen here just so to make all the foods great. From the chili stew to the pozole, knowing that it did win first prize, I am so very excited. I am very happy. I even complimented my staff because they're the ones that are doing it, not me. I teach them.
Aragon started as a dishwasher and worked his way up to chef.
Learning from the bottom up, everything that everything that you take and have, you can share with others. Communication is the key here. A lot of everybody working as a team. We all have this. I got this, you got this, you got this, and it all comes down to one. And we all work together. It's very, like I said, here it's like family, Yeah. We're always, hey, what's up, how's it going, good handshake. Well, the first thing I learned to cook at home was eggs. Fried egg was probably one of the first things I learned to cook. Here, when I first started, I wasn't really cooking. I was watching everybody as they were preparing foods, as they were getting their meals ready, like watching the banquet people, the banquet staff get their plates ready, smelling just the ingredients that go into all their work and everything. And once the chef that was here at that time said, hey, you want to become a cook? You want to be a dishwasher? I said, yeah, I want to become. So that's where it started off, maybe about 5 years ago. I started in the back as a prep cook and then just learning the ingredients, the recipes, teaching others too as we go along. A lot of new people that come in for hire, hey, this is the way, this is how we do it.
A good stew always needs great bread, and the kitchen's head baker, Rita Toledo, a Jemez Pueblo woman, prepares hundreds of loaves from the kitchen each week.
Maybe about 400 or 500 a week.
400 or 500
yeah, loaves of bread a week, yes. And the holidays, a little bit more. Okay. So people order and stuff, so we make their order and stuff like that. So we also make our pies, cookies, Pueblo cookies, and we do green chili cheese bread also.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
And that's a healthier option to have everything in house, right?
Yes.
Where all the ingredients are sourced.
Yes. There's no preservatives in this, so yeah. So the only ingredients we put in is the flour, the yeast, salt, and the canola oil. That's all that's in there. I love baking. So it's like I baked most of my life. You know, my grandma taught me how to bake and cook and stuff like that. So
What is your favorite bread?
my favorite bread to make, probably the oven bread. Yeah, I love baking bread. It's like, I don't know, it's just like it just feels good to me. You know, I just love it. I love baking. I cook home cookies and stuff like that. Even the pies, you know. Yeah, I just love it. I love baking. It makes me happy.
To prepare the bread, she cuts the bread in half.
And then you'll see how nice it is inside. And then you cut it. Like that. And this is how we serve it. So we usually put it in a basket and stuff, like in the middle, so everybody can just grab a slice, like their stew or whatever. You can toast it, whatever.
Award-winning food with quality, fresh ingredients that have been fixtures of Pueblo people's diets for generations showcases the Indian Pueblo kitchen as a leader in global Indigenous food sovereignty, where culture meets history. From the Indian Pueblo Cultural Center in Albuquerque, I'm Sean Griswold.
And with us tonight in the studio is Sean Griswold. He heads up our Cultivating Culture project. And I have to tell you, I didn't have a big dinner tonight, so I'm a little hungry after watching that video, Sean. Those soups look wonderful, and the bread looked fantastic. One thing I really liked about that segment was the chef said he started as a dishwasher. Then he started doing light prep, right? In 5 years, and the smile on his face really did tell it all. And I was watching him as he was walking through that kitchen. He had a little pep to his step. And so, we're talking about Indigenous food sovereignty and health aspects and all that. Sean, tell us what you've been experiencing. You came on, what was it, May or June of this year?
Yeah, Levi, we started our Cultivating Culture project, which is supported by the MacArthur Foundation and hosted by Native News Online. In June, we began in earnest, started the program that's focused specifically on tribal food sovereignty, Indigenous food sovereignty, understanding how that connects with language revitalization. And from the beginning, we kind of came to developing what this is. We started at a seed to table reporting and trying to identify how we can understand each step of how food is produced and served for Indigenous people. It's prominent to Indigenous culture, and our food systems at a very foundational space are part of the erasure policies. We can look at commodities, which we have started reporting on when we look at how that is a direct line for some of the federal policies and treaty obligations for Native people from the United States is our health, our well-being, and our food. And we've seen those food systems evolve from, government rations of the white box with black letters that just says, flour, and, developed into full-on private enterprises, some supported by tribes, which also stand separately with their own tribal food systems, whether they're food distribution, food systems in agriculture, livestock, or, general producing of small service kitchens for people to find a place and, in many spaces, careers in Indigenous food systems. I think it was impressive for us to see somebody like Sean Sherman at the very beginning, who you and I have interviewed, who's at a pinnacle place right now. There's somebody who's prominent, who's being seen by people across the globe as a leader in Indigenous food systems. And then we see a chef like Josh Aragon, who's doing it just around the block from me in Albuquerque. It demonstrates the full breadth of the scope of what these food systems are creating for great, strong communities for Native people.
Yeah, and also you mentioned the MacArthur Foundation. I want to mention the Solution Journalism Network, and they're also supporting the project. And you and I and some of our other staff members, Lise Wild and Kristen Lilia have been involved with a cohort, and been kind of intensive. intense, I should say, but I tell you, it's well worth it, because solutions journalism is really about not just telling the stories, but helping to guide maybe some solutions that could be out there for it. Within Indian country, the loss of our food systems because of genocidal practices. Quite frankly, if you think about it, Sean, purposely the U.S. government destroyed herds and herds of buffalo so our people would starve to death back in the 1800s. And just on that, start there, fighting our way back with food sovereignty. The work that we do is great. And I will say this, that one thing I've been really pleasantly surprised is we don't have to reinvent the wheel and tell everybody, oh, this is the way you do it. All we have to do, there's so many good things going on among the tribes, tribal entity organizations out there, Intertribal Agricultural Council, on. And we're going to have Crystal Wahpepah. She came from their conference. I talked to her today. She was just excited about their conference. But there's so many great people, great organizations doing things in Indian country. All we have to do is amplify it. And tell us about the solutions journalism aspect to your work, though, Sean.
Yeah, that's what I think is such a great part of what we're doing here with Cultivating Culture is we do have foundational support from MacArthur and from the Solutions Journalism Network, and that helps to support some of our reporting projects. But we need a place like Native News Online to be able to host it. And that's why we're here, to receive donations, to be able to get support. So Native News Online exists. So when foundations are looking for creating news teams and news coverage on a very vital and important topic like Indigenous food sovereignty, it has a publication to go to. And I think that's the part that we're here for to support is with Native News Online support, you support directly Cultivating Culture. You support, coverage for Indigenous food systems, which we've seen at a scale from bison restoration and seeing where that's impacted us, Native people throughout this entire year up into a point of direct policy implications for how our food systems are being handled through the federal government, because we, as Native people, still have a direct tie to federal government policies when it comes to health and our food. And we saw that most drastically during the government shutdown and how we covered SNAP and how we saw tribes respond in multiple ways where tribes were identifying natural resources that are fully supported either by tribal enterprises, some private, some nonprofit, a whole collection of different people looking for the solutions towards it. And that was some of the most impressive work I think we were able to pivot to immediately. And that comes directly from our foundational support. But again, we need Native News Online to be able to host this important reporting.
Yeah, and we like to say this, and maybe a little self-serving, but we give the news free, but it costs money to produce what we do. And so we are asking you to go to those QR codes tonight or put it in the chat if you want to shout out, if you want to make a special donation, we will give you a shout out. But we do need the support. We don't do this all year long, a year-end campaign, obviously. And I think even the first or second day of December, I let people know we'd be asking more frequently this month. And sometimes it can be a little bothersome. And I get literally politicians are sending me requests, sometimes same politician 3 times a day. And so I don't think we're being, it may feel like we're being excessive, but please don't take it that way. We really do need the money. This has been a tough year in that advertising, because of the uncertainty, confusion that's been going on with the federal government, has really cut into ad budgets this year for a lot of people. And this whole discussion of tariffs, companies were reluctant. Do they spend money? Do they not? What's going to happen? There's been a lot of confusion and uncertainty, and I cannot emphasize enough the need to do that. But we have a special guest, and I want to bring Chance back on, but we have Crystal Wahpepah. And she's my friend. I've known her for 10 years now, maybe. And Crystal, tell us where you were. I asked you to be part of something. Oh, when Sean and I were up in Seattle, NCAI, and you said, "Well, I'm going to be in New Zealand." Tell us about that.
Wow.
You're on
New
mute.
Zealand
Oh, there you
was
are.
off. Am I okay? Can you hear me? Hello,
Yes.
everybody. Hello, Leo.
Bonjour. How are you?
Yeah, New Zealand was off decision to shut global. I had a chance to speak people, so we got to talk about food sovereignty too, which we think, and you can have all these conferences.
We may have to.
All these
We have some technical problems.
Yeah, we may have to have you come back real quick. Maybe what can we do? Can we have her rejoin or whatever? We got to hear this. We got to hear her saying, "Hey, Sean, man, get your stuff, man. You got a good voice, good neck. Thank you for your words, and you're so right."
Hey, Sean, while we're waiting for Crystal to come back, he told us today. Okay, here, Crystal's back. Go ahead.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Let's go.
We can hear you.
Oh, I was on a roll. I was on a roll too.
You're telling us about New Zealand, Crystal.
Yes, I got to speak at the Indigenous World's People's Conference in New Zealand, and I got to cook. I'm a part of a collective of the Indigenous World Chefs, so this is where hand in hand where food sovereignty takes place, where you have so many different conferences, but where are the Indigenous chefs?
Yes.
And so I had the honor to cook over there, and had the honor just to share where it comes into cultural and where it comes into the foods on hand. So, other than that, I would just want to say to everyone, me and Levi, we've known each other for a very long time. And Levi, you always support where it comes into food sovereignty, where it comes into food justice, or anything where on hand of my work that we do at Wahpepah's Kitchen. And that's even before I had my restaurant. So I think it's very important to support. I think it's on hand how I do food sovereignty, how I talk about our foods. And I was reading on the thing about the foods and the language are on hand. It has to come together. And the same thing where it comes on to Native News Online to it's like you have our voice when we can't have our voice everywhere. And so I think it's very important to support Native News Online. And I just want to say, I've been out there in the trenches, but also at the same time, I've seen the beauty where it comes into the Native News Online. So I just want to say thank you from Wahpepah's Kitchen.
Thank you. And and for those of you who've never been there in Oakland, California, my buddy and I, Arthur Jacobs, we came that one Saturday afternoon, we had lunch there. And I was thinking about that today after you and I talked. That was one of the best meals I've had in a long time. It was delicious. I had some buffalo. I had some bison out there. Chan. Have you been to her place in Oakland?
No, man, but you talked about being hungry like 4 different times on this.
Oh, man.
But we're always working for it. And the cultivating culture conversation, gets us directly to food. I think, I posted in our chat here, Crystal, you shared with us a recipe that we published on cultivating culture. To me, shows that demonstrates that we have a broad coverage area here. It can be strictly, serious on policy. It can look at these vital food systems that are growing at these conferences. And it could be, your comfort pumpkin squash soup recipe. Do you want to tell us about what that was, what you wrote or what you shared with us for with our Cultivating Culture project?
Oh, yes, of course. I shared a recipe where it comes with the pumpkin squash, and I've been really fortunate to have brought home a pumpkin squash actually for my tribe. I'm a Kickapoo tribal member from Oklahoma, so I got to bring it back home. And it's a lot where it kind of takes you back with memories, especially with my grandmother, how we make soup. And that's what the recipe that I shared with the pumpkin soup. And it's creamy, it's vibrant, and also it has its own story within itself when you're eating it. So I love telling stories where it comes with food. And of course, we love the taste of it, but then also it talks about the history of the food, how far it's came, and how it's very much alive.
And I think that's what's so great about these conversations. It's so simple too. That's what's beautiful about it. It's a simple recipe that shows us these traditional food systems, they can be simple and they can be accessible. And that's another thing I really like about our project here. We just want to show people these things are happening. And I got to say, Crystal, in any reporting that we do, if I ever ask anybody about, when you're looking for sources or talking to people about Indigenous food sovereignty, your name comes up constantly across Indian country. And that's something that's always impressive to see. So thank you for joining us and supporting Native News Online.
Before you go, has your cookbook come out or is it about to come out?
Oh, my cookbook. Well, here goes my cookbook.
Hey,
Hey.
that looks
It's
so
a feather and a
colorful.
fork. It comes out.
I haven't
March-
gotten my copy yet. I have not
Nope,
gotten my
You'll
copy.
get your copy. It comes
Okay.
out March 17th. And
Okay.
this is a cookbook about my journey being an Indigenous chef, about my journey, especially here in the Bay Area. There's so many natives here, about the intertribal foods, and we highlight all the way up into our producers, all the way up into the people that makes one Wahpepah's kitchen in the community. So I think that's very important. And plus, if everybody knows me, they know I love berries.
You know what? Let me let you guys in on a secret. I was talking to somebody who contributed a story, and Crystal fed the multitude in Alcatraz Island on Thanksgiving Day, the sunrise ceremony. So she's a spectacular person. She is really a spectacular person.
Mm-hmm.
And I know, and then I talked to Ben Jacobs out at the Colby and in Denver and Sean Sherman. They all give back to the community. And Chance, you know this. You work with some of them. They give back to the community. And as we like to say, it's the Indian way, right? It's like we take care of each other. It's like I said earlier, you give a native person a quarter, they're going to figure out 6 ways to get it back. But thank you for all you do for the community. And when that book comes out, we need you to get on Native Badassi with us. Chance and I will work you over, get some good recipes.
Yeah, definitely. And I got a few years back, I got to cook. And I don't know if you ate, Chance. It was
your presentation. Your presentation, I sure did. Hey, listen, before I let y'all go real quick, also, ladies and gentlemen, be sure to hit that QR code. It's right there in the corner. We do see people hitting that QR code. Thank you all for doing that. Keep doing that. Hey, man, just in a nutshell, anybody out there listen to this real quick. Sean and Crystal, 30 seconds each. The importance of why Native people need to eat better. Just give me just 30 seconds apiece. Let's go.
One, I can answer that really quick. Where it comes into your health and wellness, Native people need to eat better, but really Native people need to eat in season.
Sean.
I always think it's important for Native people to be there. And when you're most healthy, you're the most present.
Yeah. Gut health, everything else, right? So
I think we have one more video. We have one more video, don't we?
Let's go. Let's roll it.
Walking into Owamni feels like stepping into a living story, a place where Indigenous foods are the center, not the exception. Everything here feels intentional, from the ingredients to the design to the view of the Mississippi River. The same land our people have called home for generations. Owamni's menu is completely decolonized. No wheat, no dairy, no cane sugar. Just the original ingredients of this land, brought forward with care. I got the opportunity to sit down with the general manager, Tara Morstrom, from the Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe, to learn more about what makes this place not just a restaurant, but a movement.
Hi, my name is Tara Morstrom. I'm from the Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe, but I grew up on the Fond du Lac reservation up in northern Minnesota. And I'm the general manager here at Owamni. Been here since day one, and it's been really fun, and it's just awesome to share what we do with everybody. We just announced that we're going to change the restaurant space over to the Guthrie, which is just a few blocks down, and it's going to be a lot more space. Right now we can fit about 77 people. Over there we can fit about 220 at once. We have a lot of stuff planned, and I think the hardest part is just waiting for time to move so that we can start doing things. Right now we're just waiting for construction to be done at the Guthrie, and then we'll move forward and open up, and it'll be very similar to what we're doing now, just on a bigger scale. And we can reach out to more communities that way too, and just have more connection to the people around us too, and not just we're a restaurant. It's a lot more than that. Since we've opened, we haven't served beef, chicken, pork, dairy, wheat flour, cane sugar. We do that because those ingredients are colonial ingredients. They came after the settlers came, and so by choosing not to use those ingredients, we can really showcase what Indigenous food was before industrialization and settlers came and all of that stuff. So it was a really big change when all that happened, and so to be able to get recipes out there that are traditional and that elders recognize from when they were kids, that's the biggest part for me, is just being able to showcase the beautifulness of our culture, and not just in ceremony, how some other people do, but just by food too.
What are some of your favorite dishes here at Milwaukee?
One of my absolute favorites is the bison ribeye. So we have a really big cut of steak. It's somewhere about 24 to 30 ounces. And one of our cooks, actually, he made a blend to go on these ribeyes, and we just keep it on there every day. We've probably had that same recipe for the last 3 years, because it's just so good. When we sell it to people too, when they're eating, we bring it out to people. When we go back and check in on them, they're like, "That's the best steak I've ever had in my life." Sometimes they don't even realize it is bison. They're just like,
really?
"Oh, this is good beef." It's like, no, this is bison, and it can taste good. And a lot of the ingredients that we use, we've had to like kind of relearn how to cook with those ingredients, because sometimes you won't get the same effect as you would with flour. Like, we use cassava flour to make bread. It took our chefs like 2 years to figure out a perfect recipe to get it like bread, because it's just not the same ingredients. And so that's just, it's amazing to see the creativeness of the chefs when they cook, and to see like the light come into their eyes when they're playing with new things, and it's awesome.
Yeah. I was talking to Sean the other day, Sean Sherman, and he said that most of his staff is Native.
Yes.
Is that true? And how is that having a Native kind of family in the middle of Minneapolis? How is that dynamic for you?
It's honestly amazing. I did grow up on the reservation, and I've been, a part of different communities, but this community, it's the first workplace that I've been in where majority of the people are Natives and have the same, story that I do growing up. So it's powerful to have us all come together and do what we can. Like this, the reason we're moving is because we've outgrown this space, and that also comes with the family. Like, we want to hire more Native people. We want to get those kids that are going off to college and teach them how to cook, or teach them what service is. And to just give them those tools, because I know a lot of people, when they work in restaurants, they have the skills to work anywhere. And so that's kind of, for me, the baseline is like, if we can get these kids to work on discipline, multitasking, being reliable, then they can go off and do that to other jobs if they wanted to.
Tara shared how Owamni is all about reconnecting people to Indigenous foodways and building a model for other Native-owned restaurants. They talked about creating opportunities for Native chefs and staff, partnering with Indigenous producers, and bringing culture to the table in every dish. There's so much that the guests don't see, from sourcing Native-grown ingredients to the training and teamwork that goes into every plate. And of course, the food. Every dish feels like a piece of history, familiar, but also something you've never tasted before. Being here is a reminder that Indigenous food isn't a trend, it's a continuation, a story of survival, celebration, and reconnection. If you haven't been to Owamni yet, put it on your list. Located in downtown Minneapolis. It's more than a meal. It's a story you will carry with you.
Hey everyone, this is AC Locklear from the National Indian Health Board, and I can't express enough how important it is that we have Native-focused news outlets that are sharing our stories, that are lifting our voices, that are making sure that everyone across Turtle Island knows the power of our people and the struggles we face, but not most importantly, the important work that our people continue to do day in and day out to care for our people. So it's important that we continue to support this work. So as we are in a giving time of the season, I encourage everyone to support the work of Native News Online and making sure that our stories continue to be heard.
Wow, that was
Yep.
that video. Chance, I'm so hungry right now.
Man, I know. Me too, man. Me too.
I'm like, okay, I think I have a little breakfast bar here somewhere. But anyway, we have some special guests, and
wow,
in Chance, you know these people better than I
Double
do.
trouble.
I did meet them up in Seattle when I was up at National Congress of American Indians, and that's the beautiful thing about going to conferences. You get to meet some good outstanding Native people are doing great things, and they wanted to come on to give a presentation. But I'm going to turn it over to you, Sean, and you can introduce these two special guests.
Okay.
Chance. I'm sorry.
Okay. Sean, I appreciate that. No, listen, I got my main man, Rachel. How y'all doing? Coming to us from Dallas, Texas. And, I had the privilege, I'm going to let them introduce themselves here in a moment, but I actually had the privilege. It was my great honor to serve as a podcaster for I had a chance to interview them. I went out to their warehouse, I believe it was like in Arlington or almost in Fort Worth. It was Teltech, but they have a partnership with Indigenous, who our CEO and owners are. Lorraine, how you doing there, boss?
Good.
Well, let me set this up real quick, and I want you guys to jump in here real quick, okay? So, Levi has really been wanting to jump into just every single tribe in Indian country, right? And was talking about, like, we need data, we need software, we need gigabytes, we need then I actually found Rachel and plugged them two up in Seattle. Then you plugged in the next day, came up to Seattle. This is about to be a great partnership right here. But before we get into the interview, I'm going to let Levi take over. But before we get into the interview, I want you to just share with the audience the importance of Indian ownership, right? We're raising money tonight for Native News Online. And it has to come from us, right? It has to come from our pockets to build and make who we are. Why is it important for tribes to work with tribes? And why is it important for Native people to invest in their own products?
That's a great question. You pretty much, with the question, you almost answered it. It's important to put back and service ourselves, and to be our own champions. We can be our own advocates for ourselves, and to create a system and a lifeway for ourselves. That's exactly what Indigitech would, our goal and what it is we want to do is to create a partnership at being a Native-led company, a partnership with the tribes to help build and maintain a tribally owned network. And it's not just about connectivity; it's about sovereignty.
I'll tell you what, this is y'all's lane. Levi, ask away, because
I love that word sovereignty. As I said, as part of who we are is our identity, and you folks at Indigitech are really doing some good work. And
yes, they are.
The idea of trying to connect everyone to broadband, and tell us about what you're trying to do and why it's important in the next year that tribes really get on board, because there's some special programming that's out there, correct?
Yes, absolutely. So back in 2020, the FCC released 2.5 spectrum licenses for tribal nations to apply. And in 2020, 320 tribal nations applied and received these licenses. Now, just because you received it doesn't mean it's there and it's there for infinity. There are deadlines with it. And over 130 of these tribes have a deadline of this next year, 2026, which basically means that if you don't have the network built, you lose the license. These licenses are of very high value. Companies that utilize and get into fixed wireless and acquire these licenses pay top dollar for them. And if these licenses are lost, unfortunately, they can't be regained unless the tribes have the money to. Because what'll happen is they'll go back to the FCC and they'll be auctioned off.
Yes,
I said, that there's they're a hot commodity, so you would have to bid against some big corporations that have the funds to outbid you, essentially.
Okay. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is my fault. I want to backtrack here. Lorraine, can you introduce Indigitech, introduce yourself as a CEO? And I know Rachel's going to go ahead and come back on here. This is a very important segment because Lorraine is talking about some very important things about if we don't. I want you all to know out there, there's a lot of things in movement that they don't want tribes to know about. And for Lorraine and Rachel to grab a hold of this and say, hey, listen, we got to October 2026. So Lorraine, can you introduce yourself as a CEO? Rachel, introduce yourself. Talk about just briefly about Indigitech, and then get into this end of 2026.
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, I am Lorraine Guerrero. I am an enrolled member of the Alawasponi people of Hollister, North Carolina. I'm also Apache on my father's side. And I joined this endeavor last year. We partnered with Teltech to provide this connectivity. Like you said, Chance, a lot of tribes we feel, and what we're finding out is there was a lack of education when these spectrums, these 2.5 licenses were given to these tribal nations. There wasn't much education that was done to explain.
And still isn't.
Absolutely. And that's what we're here to do, is to educate, empower, and be a partner with these tribal nations from start to finish. And what's another great thing that we're all in with our tribal nations. We actually have all the equipment in our warehouse. We're ready to deploy, and we have doubled down on our mission and the fact that we provide workforce development for tribal nations. So we will train tribal members. Our technicians will train tribal members to be technicians of the network, so you can maintain it yourself. And even even to add to that, we provide there's potential profit sharing opportunities. So the tribes not only have connectivity, they can profitize it and make money off their network.
And Rachel, you're a tribal leader. You're on council for your tribe.
Yes.
From one tribal leader to another tribal leader. Talk about how important this is to understand and to get educated on this 2.5 gigabytes. Is that what it is? And we have until 2026 to grab a hold of this?
Yeah, I think Lorraine pretty much explained most of that. But it is very important. And thank you so much. I'm sorry I'm having camera issues, but thank you so much. And we're honored to support Native News Online, Levi, and the work that you do and your team to uplift Indigenous voices across Indian country. And I hope, everyone tonight will find a way to make a donation to support Levi and team to continue their great works. And, tonight in Digitech, we are proud to make a donation. And we are a Native-led company focused on bringing connectivity to solutions to tribal nations. And, I am a tribal leader for my tribe, the Lipan Apache tribe of Texas. And, when tribal communities have access to reliable internet, we strengthen everything, right? From education for our youth to telehealth for our elders, public safety for our community, language revitalization, economic development. Connectivity is no longer a luxury, right? It's a necessity for our tribal nations. For far too long, tribes have been left behind when it comes to connectivity. And right now, there is an opportunity. What Lorraine was talking about, the 2.5 gigahertz spectrum, is an opportunity, once in a generation, that our tribes can take control of their digital future. And Digitech is here to walk alongside any tribe that wants to do that. But as Lorraine has said, and he might have already said it when I was having technical issues, but this is an opportunity really with this 2.5 gigahertz, a chance is for tribes to become a subscriber. I'm sorry, to stop being the subscriber and be the provider, right? Instead of renting the network from another outside entity or outside company, you can be your own provider and stop being the subscriber. And that's what we can help you do. And that's what this 2.5 gigahertz can enable tribes to do. So it is very important for tribal nations. Lorraine has all the info as far as, if somebody wants to reach out to us, we can help you look up your license, give you the information, and really, tailor what you need. We don't have a cookie cutter approach. We know all of our tribes, there's over 500 tribes, are all different with different needs. And so our team will work with you to design the best solution for you.
I'm getting the poll, guys. So thank you so much for your donation. And one thing I will say is real quickly about this organization. Chance, I found out combined they bring about 100 years of experience. So these are
Yeah, they
not
do.
somebody just trying to dabble in communications. They come from the industry. They know what they're doing. So you'll be seeing more reports from our Native News Online and our sister publication, Tribal Business News, and looking forward to working with you this coming year, both Ray and Rachel. Thank you so much for the donation. Well, what was that donation? I didn't hear the dollar amount.
We donated $500.
All right.
We challenge everyone out there to at least match our $500. In fact, double what we did. If you could.
Double. Okay. Thank you, guys.
And guys, we're gonna bring you on for an interview. We will bring you on very soon for an interview.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and thank you. And we're going to move on, and we are past the 90 minutes. But you know, Chance, how many times have we been in? We call them old Indian meetings where we say we're on Indian time. We take as long as we want. So for those of you who need to go, you have to go. But don't forget to donate. But we're going to move on to our health segment. And what's up next? We have a video.
My name is Elise Wild, and I am the Senior Health Equity Editor here at Native News Online. My work has also been featured in The Guardian, Elle Magazine, National Geographic, and NPR. Native people face some of the largest health disparities of any demographic. Native American women are 2.3 to 4 times more likely than white women to die during pregnancy. Native people have some of the highest overdose rates amid the ongoing opioid crisis, and suicide rates in Indian country are 91% higher than the rest of the nation. When you support Native News Online, you are supporting the only dedicated news desk covering these issues in Indian country. So what does that mean? With breaking news, we tell you what is happening, and with deep dive articles, we tell you why it matters. 2025 was a big year for health news in Indian country. When news was breaking by the minute as the administration changed staff and budgets, we kept you informed about how that would affect the Indian Health Service, Native people on Medicaid, and funding that supports critical health services in Native communities. We even brought you an exclusive interview with the United States Secretary of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. We published deep dives on the most pressing health issues affecting Indian country today. But we didn't look at these issues from a deficit, because Indian country is so much more than that. We took you to Alaska to learn about a group of Alaska Native midwives restoring traditional birthing practices for Indigenous mothers. We took you to Maine to learn how the Wabanaki people utilize culturally centered care to heal relatives from the opioid crisis. And we took you into the experience of people affected by domestic violence, working to make things better for other Native survivors. We elevated Native-led, culturally centered solutions to health outcomes that are rooted in sovereignty, generational knowledge, and Indigenous innovation. We explored the heart of these issues through the eyes and the voices of the people most affected. This work is critical. Health is everything. It's community, it's life. At Native News Online, we are warrior journalists, and I hope that next year you will join us in supporting our health equity coverage.
All right. Elise, thank you for that video. That is very moving. And I do want to give a shout out to the San Manuel Foundation for the support for our health coverage this past year. And we are, we are the only Native American news source out there that has a dedicated health desk. And so our work is so critical. So disparities that we have, right? We have so many disparities, health disparities, that it's off the charts. And I will tell you, Elise, I get choked up talking about it sometimes, because our people die, whether you're male or female, about 10 years younger than our counterparts. And so, and it really is a result of the injustices that have been done to Native people. And I don't want to sound like a preacher, but I will get on a soapbox and say, we need to support Native journalism, the work that you've done, and we really have got to make a difference. And one thing I'm really proud of here at Native News Online, it's something that doesn't always get thousands and thousands of people watching the live streams, but we've had 4 or 5 opioid live streams trying to reduce the drug overdose in Indian country. In some places, clustered in time and place, we have 9 times the national average, as I recall. And even as you mentioned in the video, the fact that women die, was it how many more times during first year of pregnancy or after
2 to
pregnancy?
4 times. It's a big deal. It's a lot. It really matters.
And that's one thing as founder, editor of Native News Online, I'm so proud of the work that we do because, like I said, people don't always pay attention. And I heard somebody say one time, you don't hear about the poison center until your dog gets into the Drano box or bottle. And then all of a sudden it becomes a crisis. Well, sometimes our health isn't a crisis until the gurney's about ready to be sent for. But we have got to keep this out there. And if I'm on a soapbox, I'm sorry, but folks, I think you understand in Indian country the significance. We all have our grandmas, our aunties, and you know, I had an aunt that died, as far as I'm concerned, a little too young. And she had diabetes, and so I had a brother that died of complications, and on, and so it actually had 2 brothers die. You know, one with lung cancer, and one with some other situations. And so I have to tell you that health is something that I really I'm proud of our coverage, and I can't say it enough. And thank you, Elise Chief McGwitch, for all of the work that you do. And I know we're running overtime, but just talk for a couple minutes. Talk about what your work.
Certainly. And thank you so much for that, Levi. I've been a journalist for a long time, for over 10 years now. And when I started working at Native News Online, it completely changed my life. And this health coverage I've been really fortunate to be able to do has utterly changed my life. And I could talk about health equity in Indian country all day. But one thing I will say that I think is really important and that really sums up Indian country. And as a non-Native person, this is something that I have learned in the communities that I report in, that I carry with me and has changed the way I live my life is, you know, whether I'm interviewing people about overdoses or suicides or maternal health, every single person I've interviewed has said the term our people. Native people think of their community as our people. We need to heal our people. And that's not something you hear in other communities. And when I think of all the coverage I've gotten to do the past year, that is something that comes to mind again and again and again, is that, yes, we have these terrible disparities going on in Indian country that really affect everyday people. And we also have these amazing communities that are working really hard to heal their relatives and heal their people. And that's something I'm really thrilled and feel very blessed to be able to elevate and give coverage to. Because if we don't do this work, it's invisible. We're the only news desk in the country that is covering this. And it's really important. And every single dollar really matters.
Yes. And thank you for watching tonight. I do have a special announcement that I was informed by Chairman Marshall Parikh that the Tunica Biloxi tribe has given us $5,000. So thank you to the Tunica Biloxi people, and they're our friends, and we appreciate that support. And any other tribal leader out there want to help support, and we do say it, it's not just cliche. Our news is free, because I never want to have a paywall on Native News Online. I know too many of our people can't afford that. And I get frustrated. I think we all do it as consumers. You go through a story and you're trying to get through, and then all of a sudden it's a paywall. And it's like, we will never have a paywall as long as I'm involved with Native News Online. But I will tell you, the news is free, but it costs us money. And help me not have to toss and turn it and I wondering about payroll. So please give the donation. If I sound like I'm begging, I'm sorry, but it's really necessary. And Chance, why don't you kind of wrap it up? And I know we do have some more videos of some other high profile people that want to talk, but go ahead.
Yes, and everybody stay on. Thank you so much for all the work that you do. We're so proud of you and your hard work, and being young, and just really encourage our ladies. Thank you so much for doing that. Hey guys, listen. One more time, Kristen, give me that QR code. Tunica Biloxi, thank you very much for your contribution of $1,000. Please.
No, 5,000.
5,000.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Thank you so much for doing that. Keep plugging away. It does cost us. We're not sitting here begging for money, but we want to stay on the front line. We're able to stay on the front line by keeping Native News Online up and running and on the front line. So, hey, listen, guys, we're going to get back to more of these videos. I've got to run across the street here, man. I'm doing a show tonight, and I'm looking forward to it. Downtown Minneapolis, freezing out here. Thank you all. McGwitch, Levi, you're doing such a phenomenal job in the work that you do. I hope y'all can even visit a little more. But again, everybody out there, thank you, all of our speakers tonight, and thank you for everybody who's listening. Hit that QR code. Hey, man, like Angeline said, whatever you can give, we're grateful for it. But we're going to keep this thing going and flowing. And thank y'all very much. I'm Chance Rush signing off downtown Minneapolis. Time to go get that the next event. Let's go.
All right. Thank you, Chance. Chimagwich.
Hello, I'm Billy Mills, and I'd like to share with you why I support Levi Rickert and Native News Online. Our voices have to be heard. Our voices will play a major role in choreographing the horizon of America's future. One of the most powerful ways to do that is join Levi Rickert and share our voices through Native News Online. Please join me.
Kevin Killer, Oglala Sioux Tribe, former president, former state senator, former legislator. I support Native News Online. Levi does a great job of being an independent journalist, gives great news and timely updates for our communities, and he covers all our nations in a fair and honest way. Wahpepah. Keep supporting Native News Online.
My name is Mo Brinksplenny, and I just want you all to know that it's very important to support Native media.